On December 5, 1872, a ship was found drifting in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was sailing erratically, moving with the wind but with no one at the wheel, no distress signal. No chaos, just silence. When sailors boarded her, they found a ghost ship. Meals were set on the table, beds were unmade. The crew's belongings were still in their chests. It looked as if the 10 people on board had simply vanished into thin air. This is the true story of the Mary Celeste, not the legend. And I'm warning you, the reality, the curse that followed this ship and the men who captained her is far stranger than any ghost tale. It started on a clear afternoon. Captain Morehouse of the Day Grottia spotted a speck on the horizon. He knew the ship. It was the Mary Celeste, but something was wrong. Her sails were torn, and she was drifting dangerously off course. He orders his crew to investigate. As their boots hit the creaky, wet deck of the Mary Celeste, they expect chaos. Instead, they find the impossible. The ship is in perfect condition, but the people were gone. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. A child's impression was still on the bed, but the family who left it would never be seen again. The most chilling detail was the captain's logbook. It sat open on the desk. The final entry was dated 10 days earlier. For 10 days, this massive ship had been sailing itself across the ocean like a ghost. To understand why they left, we have to go back to the beginning. The Mary Celeste wasn't always her name. She was built in Nova Scotia in 1861 under a different name, the Amazon. And from the moment she touched water, she was cursed. Her very first captain, Robert McClellan, fell ill just days after taking command. He died before the maiden voyage even finished. The sailors whispered that the ship had rejected him. It was a bad omen. The ship's first delivery wasn't cargo, it was her own captain's corpse. The crew was spooked, but the owners pushed on. They had money to make. But the bad luck didn't stop there. On her second voyage, she ran straight into a massive fishing weir, tangling her hull and costing a fortune in repairs. She was clumsy, heavy, and seemingly prone to disaster. Then came the collision. While sailing the English Channel, the Amazon suddenly swerved and rammed into a British brig. It wasn't a small bump, it was a catastrophic impact that nearly destroyed both vessels. The other ship sank rapidly. The Amazon's crew had to rescue the terrified survivors from there. Lifeboats, as their own ship, disappeared beneath the waves. Amazingly, she managed 6 years of relatively normal operation after that. The owners thought the curse had lifted. They were making a profit. But the sea was just waiting for the right moment to strike again. In 1867, a new captain took charge, Captain Thompson. He was an experienced man, but he wasn't just battling the ocean. He was battling the ship's dark history, and he would make a fatal mistake. When he received a letter notifying him he was being replaced, a cunning look crossed his face. Against the advice of locals, he sailed the ship north toward Cape Breton in November, a route specifically forbidden by insurance due to deadly winter storms. The winter storms in that region are legendary. It was a suicide mission for a ship with her luck. A massive storm hit. The Amazon was driven ashore at Glass Bay. She was battered, broken, and left to rot on the rocks. The owners abandoned her. As far as the world was concerned, the cursed ship was dead. The owners tried to claim insurance, but the wreck was so suspicious that the claim was denied. They were ruined. The Amazon had destroyed the lives and fortunes of everyone who touched her. But you can't kill a ghost. A businessman named Alexander McBean, bought the wreck for pennies. He hauled her off the rocks and decided that the only way to fix the curse was to change her name. He spent a fortune rebuilding her. He gave her a new copper bottom, new sails, and a new identity. He christened her the Mary Celeste. He thought he could trick fate. He was wrong. Enter Captain Benjamin Briggs, a staunch Christian, a teetotaler, and a master mariner. He bought shares in the ship and planned to retire on her profits. He brought his wife and daughter along for a beautiful European vacation. It was supposed to be a warm, family trip. Briggs even loaded a rosewood upright piano onto the ship so his wife Sarah could play music for their daughter during the crossing. It was a scene of domestic happiness. But beneath their feet, in the dark cargo hold, sat the danger. 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. Industrial strength, highly flammable. Briggs had never transported dangerous, liquid cargo before. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor. The weather was uncertain, but Briggs was confident. He wrote a letter to his mother saying, "Our vessel is in beautiful order." It was the last letter he would ever write. 2 weeks later, the weather turned. Strong gales battered the ship. The logbook shows they were fighting heavy winds and rough seas. The ship was taking on a little water, but nothing the pumps couldn't handle. Then, nothing, no more entries. When the day Grottia found her days later, she was drifting erratically. The sails were set for a wind that wasn't blowing. The wheel was spinning loose. Inside, the scene was haunting. The table was set for breakfast, but the food hadn't been touched. It wasn't a violent scene. It was an interrupted one. Whatever happened, happened instantly. The only thing missing was the lifeboat. The davits was swung out, and a rope was trailing in the water. This wasn't an abduction. This was an evacuation. They had jumped into a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean. Why? The ship was towed to Gibraltar, where an inquiry began. The British Attorney General was convinced it was foul play. He accused the crew of getting drunk on the cargo and murdering the family. The newspapers loved this theory, mutiny on the high seas. They screamed. They painted a picture of a drunken crew turning on their captain, tossing him overboard, and fleeing in guilt. But the evidence didn't fit. A sword was found under the captain's bed, but it was clean. There was no blood, no signs of a struggle, and most importantly, the alcohol was undrinkable. It was industrial poison. When murder didn't stick, the public turned to monsters. Magazines published drawings of giant squids dragging the ship down. It was sensational journalism at its finest, but it wasn't the truth. The truth likely lies in the cargo hold. Modern science suggests that the barrels, made of porous red oak, leaked alcohol vapor. In the heat of the storm, those fumes built up in the sealed hold, turning it into a bomb. Suddenly, a pressure wave, a cold explosion, could have blasted the main hatch open. It wouldn't have caused a fire, but the sound and the blast of air would have been terrifying. Captain Briggs, fearing the ship was about to explode, made a split-second decision: abandon ship. He ordered everyone into the lifeboat, planning to trail behind the Mary Celeste until the danger passed. They tied a long rope to the stern and drifted behind. But the waves were high. In the chaos, the rope, their only lifeline, snapped. The Mary Celeste, heavy and stable, sailed away on the wind. The lifeboat, tiny and overloaded, was left bobbing in the freezing Atlantic fog. They watched their safe, warm ship disappear over the horizon. They didn't drown immediately. They starved, drifting alone in the grey mist. The Mary Celeste was returned to her owners, but the story was out. She was the ghost ship. Crews refused to sign on. She sat, rotting in harbors, unwanted and feared. Years later, she fell to Captain Gilman Parker, a sweaty, desperate man with a shady plan. He held a crumpled insurance document, plotting the ship's final demise. It was pure fraud. He planned to sink her and claim the payout. He loaded her with fake cargo. Crates labeled premium ale were actually filled with old boots and trash. He insured it for a fortune, planning to wreck the ship. Why? Because they believed the Mary Celeste was evil. They sail at full speed toward a reef off Haiti. The masts creak. The sails billow. The sea sprays. They smash into the reef. But in abandoning ship, they leave behind the logbook with Captain Briggs's original entries. Lost as the ship breaks apart. They file the insurance claim. The investigators see right through it. The cargo is just rotten fish and worthless junk. The owner, captain, and first mate are forced to return the money to avoid the death penalty. And then, all 3 men dead within 6 months. But wait, it gets stranger. 2 ships were chartered to investigate the wreck. Both ships lost, with all hands on their very next voyage. The Mary Celeste claimed victims even in death. Today, pieces of her sit in a museum in Nova Scotia. Deck nails, copper sheathing. The wreck was found in 2001, embedded in the same reef where she was destroyed. But here's what haunts me. Somewhere in the Atlantic, there was a lifeboat. A captain desperately trying to save his family, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, 7 crew members. Did they watch the Mary Celeste sail away from them? Did they see their only hope disappear over the horizon? Did little Sophia understand what was happening? Did they see the ship turn around, sailing back toward them as the wind shifted, but never quite reaching them? We'll never know. Because 150 years ago, 10 people made a reasonable decision based on the information they had. They thought they'd be separated from their ship for an hour, maybe 2, just until it was safe. And they were never seen again. The Mary Celeste sailed on without them for 8 more days, empty, alone. A ghost ship searching for her lost crew, still searching. The mystery has never been solved, not really. But the truth died with Captain Benjamin Briggs on November 25, 1872. The Mary Celeste kept her secrets, and those 10 souls, they're still out there, somewhere in the cold Atlantic, still waiting to be found.